Hi guys, welcome back to K Reviews Books. Today we're going to be talking about the best audiobooks I have listened to. If you have not known, I am in my audiobook era. I don't know what changed this year. I was never really into listening to audiobooks. I listened to Fourth Wing and Iron Flame dramatized version on Audible, and it changed everything for me. This was during my reread for Onyx Storm, and the audiobooks were just so good. So it made me think, I'm gonna do some research and see which ones I think would be the best. Like, who are the best audiobook readers, someone who doesn't have an annoying voice, stuff like that. So I went on this mad hunt for, great audiobooks, and I found a ton, and I have to share them with you because I have been having a blast listening to audiobooks. I try to at least listen to one a month, and there has been a month or two now that I have listened to a lot. Further ado, I'm going to share with you the best audiobooks I have listened to this year. Let's get into the video. First things first is I want to start off with fantasy audiobooks that I have read and that I thought were great. And a lot of them are going to be dramatized because I feel like the dramatized versions are just 10 times better. There's live action sounds, live action music. All characters have different voices so that you can associate each character to being someone else. And I think that helps tremendously with if you're trying to get into an audiobook, but you're not liking the reader's voice, and it kind of gets hard where you're like, oh, this person's voice is so annoying and I can't listen to her or him do the opposite sex voices because it's kind of irking or cringy or whatever. I feel like dramatized versions are the way to go. So I have my handy dandy notebook and we're just going to go through. First things first is Fourth Wing. I talked about that a little bit before. Fourth Wing, you guys know I'm obsessed with Fourth Wing. And Fourth Wing dramatized version is super good. The only thing I can say is part one has a different voice character for Xaden and Taryn. And the reason, I don't know, actually, I have no idea what the reason is behind them changing it, but I'm glad they did. The first version, part one, is not bad at all. It's really great. Again, dramatized versions are just 10 times better, period. But when you get into Fourth Wing part two, dramatized version, it switches over, and the voices, the people who play the characters in the book are just so amazing. So then going into Iron Flame and then hopefully Onyx Storm as well, they're gonna have the same exact characters, and it is just so amazing. If you have not read Fourth Wing, this story is about Violet Sorrengail, who her whole life thought that she was going to be a scribe and then gets sent into the Writer's Quadrant by her mother, and she has to go across the parapet and survive and hopefully be able to tame a dragon. And this story is just absolutely amazing. But those of you who have read it, you know Xaden is the perfect Xaden with this individual's voice, and I just love this story so much, especially dramatized. I could listen to it. It's like a they call it, and they describe it, I believe, when you listen to a dramatized version, as a movie in your head, and they are not wrong. I just sit there and stare off into space and listen, and then Xaden comes on and I'm like, la la la, proper name, price it. You know that TikTok line? Okay. Anyway, moving on. ACOTAR, dramatized version. I listened to only the first book and I loved it. I can't wait to listen to more, and my goal this year, one of my bookish goals, was to reread ACOTAR, but listening to the dramatized version. And thank you to Spotify, because I have Spotify Premium, and I didn't know this until the beginning of this year that you can listen to audiobooks on Spotify Premium. How amazing is that? So I do back and forth. So I do Spotify Premium, but then I also do Audible, and I share an account with my book bestie Wes. So we just buy a bunch of books, and yeah, so I don't have a preferred platform. At this point, I am not no audiobook professional, but I absolutely love either or. Audible's fine, and then also Spotify Premium. I think I like how Spotify Premium does their count better than Audible, but you just have to like find your preference of what you like. I know there's Apple too, but I don't do anything Apple. Next, let's talk about romance audiobooks. I've only listened to a handful, and right now my friend is borrowing Lights Out, but Lights Out audiobook. I read it and then I listened to it, and it is amazing. And if you don't know the MMC in Lights Out, his name is Josh, and it's kind of like dark romance, masked men meets funny, like rom-com-y almost. Super good story. Audiobook 10 times better. I wish I listened to the audiobook first, because Josh's character in it, amazing. Even more hysterical. The individual who plays Josh in the audiobook is amazing. He embodied Josh's character so well. It is just hysterical. And if you know, you know, the scene where he goes, "I'm Batman," and whimpers it. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love that audiobook so darn much. It was such a great listen, and I feel like it made the story 10 times better. Next is the King of Sin series. And this series, if you don't know, Anna Huang, I love you. If there was a cult, I would be in it. If there was no fans, I would be dead. Anna Huang, I love you. The King of Sin series audiobook version. And of course, we want to listen to, and I don't know if there's any versions where it's just a female or a female audiobook reader reading it, but especially, you guys know, King of Greed. King of Greed is my all-time favorite Anna Huang book of all time. Believe it or not, when I read her books, like a year or two ago when I first started getting into romance books, I read King of Wrath, King of Pride, and I read the back of King of Greed, and I was like, this is not for me. She's leaving her husband, and it's gonna be like a cheating trope, and I just can't do it. Like, it's not gonna be my vibe, whatever. Months went by, and I finally picked up King of Greed, and I was like, I'm just gonna read this and see what it's about. Like, it can't be that bad. Like, maybe there's no cheating trope. My favorite book. Like, insane. The fact that I even put this off, and I feel like I say this so many times when I put a book away, and I'm like, maybe one day I'll read it. The best book I ever read. Like, so darn good. Like, the emotions, it was raw. It was amazing. This story was just so good. Anyway, the King of Sin series on audiobook, so darn good. If you have not listened to it, I would 10 out of 10 recommend it. Just remember that it is a smuttier book, so, you know, if that makes you uncomfortable, don't listen. But this series on audio is so darn good. And again, one of those stories I wish I listened to first, but in that time period, I really didn't listen to audiobooks. Like, again, I didn't start listening to audiobooks until like really this year when I started my Fourth Wing reread. And I was like, what is an easier way that I can reread these books, but also still read on my normal schedule? And I was like, oh, audiobooks. Like, duh, Kaylee, you're dumb. Anyway, moving on, the next and final romance audiobook I listened to this year so far was Two Can Play, and this is by Allie Hazelwood. It's a short story kind of romance, but it is only out on audio right now, and I wish it was a physical book because I would have immediately bought it. The color palette of this cover for the audiobook is so beautiful. It's a story about an FMC and an MMC who go on this trip, and they've known each other for a while, but it was all like with passing, and with time she seemed to realize that he hates her, and she could never figure out why. So they were forced to go on this trip, and it was a bonding trip between two gaming companies, and she comes to realize that he hates her because she thought she was like friend zoning him like years ago, and she really wasn't. So he like, it's just, you have to listen to it. It is such a great story. And again, it's not a physical read at all. There's no option for that. It's only an audiobook. I remember seeing the promotions for it like a year or so ago, year and a half ago. And like the big book talkers and stuff were getting like these huge PR boxes, and they had like cute headphones. They had all these awesome things in the PR box, and the PR box was so beautiful. And it was like, I think it was like a Spotify sponsored PR box, but it was just, oh, it was so beautiful. And I was like so jealous. And I was like, oh, please, one day, if I could get any sort of box, it would be that box. And it was so beautiful. Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood, a great audiobook. Again, it is the only way to consume this book, but it is so darn good. And I would 10 out of 10 recommend this book. I really didn't think I was going to like it, but it was so awesome. Okay, moving on, thrillers, okay? I am a huge thriller girly. I always have been, but audiobooks are now my newfound best friend. And I never thought I would get into audiobooks, but I was like, you know, if I don't really like reading thrillers all that much anymore, maybe I can consume them another way, because there's so many good thriller books I would like to read, but I've just been so in my romance era as of lately, I haven't had an interest in it. But listening to them when I travel for work or travel period, oh my god, they are my saving grace. When I'm driving, I listen to thriller books and I'm screaming in the car. I'm like, oh my god, did you hear that? I'm looking out the window, I'm like, did you hear that? And some lady next to me is like, what are you doing? So anyway, first things first, Frida McFadden. What triggered me to read this first book by Frida McFadden was that it was just a new release. I have been putting off reading a lot of my Frida McFadden books. I read last summer The Housemaid, and I absolutely loved it. But then everybody kept telling me the next two books sucked, so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna read these. Then The Coworker came out, and I read that. It was okay. And then The Boyfriend came out, and I loved that book. Let me tell you, first, let me just say this. The Housemaid Secret and The Housemaid is Watching was so darn good. I don't care. Hate on me. I don't care. That story was so great. I love the time jumping. I love that you get to see her life like fast forward in multiple time periods. Like, I think the second book is like a few months ahead, but then the next book is like years ahead. And it's just so great. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I wish the series would keep going. And I wish we would get more detail of her daughter, because it seems like her daughter's going to follow the same suit as her down the road. So like, I'm kind of hoping Frida does more with that. But anyway, I absolutely love the Housemaid series, and I loved it. Case closed. Anyway, the first audiobook I listened to of Frida McFadden, and whoever, I do not know who does, I'll put it here, whoever does the voices for Frida McFadden, she's amazing. I absolutely love her voice. It is so nice. It's not annoying at all, and it just makes the story 10 times better. Anyway, the first book I listened to by Frida McFadden was The Crash. This was her new release, I think like a couple months ago. Frida McFadden comes out with books like literally like this. Like, she is insane. But anyway, The Crash, so good, especially on audiobook. Like, I absolutely loved this story. It was so darn good. Next was The Inmate. This story is crazy. It follows this woman who has a son, and when she was like 16 or 17 years old, her boyfriend at the time had a party and all of these people die, and she gets hurt, and her necklace, she gets like choked. So she moves back to her hometown because she gets a job as a nurse as a like nurse or doctor in a prison. And her and her son are starting a new life because the kid was getting made fun of and stuff in school and all these things because he didn't have a dad, and it was really sad. So she was like, this is a new start for us. So she rekindles friendships from her childhood, and then when she gets to the prison, she realizes one of the inmates is her ex-boyfriend, who is the alleged murderer of that night. And the twists at the end, and again, my dark romance side of me was coming out throughout I was reading this, and I was like, okay, Frida is not that girl, so I know this ain't gonna be the case, but, you know, a girl can dream. Anyway, The Inmate was so darn good. I absolutely love this story by Frida McFadden, and it is one of my favorites. But my overall top Frida McFadden book right now is Ward D. This story follows a FMC who is like almost done with her rotations and stuff to becoming a doctor, and she has to do a night in a psych ward, and she is dreading it because one of her childhood friends, who's a little bit loony, gets sent there, and she does not want to interact with her. And the night, all she has to do is survive the night, and things take a turn. There is constant twists and turns in this story, and honestly, this is the only book out of all of Freida McFadden's that I have read where I was able to guess the ending. I couldn't. This story was so good, and I was so sad because, like, oh, you just have to read it. You have to read it. This story is so good. I won't even spoil it because it's that darn good. Ward D is my favorite all-time story by Freida McFadden, and I stand by that. Lastly, by Freida McFadden that I listened to was Never Lie. Never Lie follows an FMC who just recently got married, and her husband are going to look at a house. A snowstorm hits and they get snowed into this house that they're going to look at, and the realtor never shows up and they are stuck for several days. The FMC finds a hidden bookshelf where when she pulls the right book, there's secrets hiding behind that door. The person who owned the house prior was a well-known author and psychologist, and she was murdered, and they did not find the killer. And throughout this story, she hears noises in the house, and she thinks that there's somebody there, but the ending, the twist, and who the FMC is, you won't even believe it. This story had me on the edge of my seat. I could not stop listening to it. I was listening to it all day. Like, all day. I finished that literally in a day and a half. I couldn't stop listening to Never Lie. It was so darn good. Freida McFadden never misses. I don't care what anybody says. I love Freida McFadden so much. There is a book talker that I follow, and she feels the exact same way, and I stand by my choices. Anyway, next in the thriller scape, we have Hidden Pictures. This story follows a creepy little fucking weirdo kid who draws pictures, and of course the parents don't believe the girl, but then the parents are bad people. So I'm not going to spoil Hidden Pictures fully for you, but that's a spoiler warning in itself. Hidden Pictures follows a little boy who has these creepy tendencies, and of course there's always that little kid. There's always one in these stories, right? And so this couple hires the FMC to be the babysitter, and she's starting a new life. She was a recovering addict, and they use her addiction to trick her, and the ending is so crazy, so good, but yet also so sad because I felt so bad for the FMC. Like, don't use her addiction against her and try to trick her. Like, that was not cool. Anyway, the story is so good. Hidden Pictures is just as good as everybody says it is. I was skeptical copy of the book, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna read it. And then I was like, wait a minute, let me listen to the audiobook. I have my free allotted time on Spotify Premium. Let me just listen to it. So I did, and I did not regret it at all. This story is just as good as everybody says it is, and I stand by that. That was a great thriller book, and honestly, so much better to listen to it. I feel like I would have read it and not liked it as much. Listening to it, 10 times better. Lastly, on my thriller list, and last of all audiobooks that I have listened to so far this year, is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. This follows an FMC whose mother died, and her rich brother who somehow hit fame, and her addict sister who doesn't have a lot of money, come back, help her sort the estate and everything going on with the mother, and truths begin to come out when they find old videotapes of their parents covering up a murder. But who murdered her? It's so crazy. Geneva Rose is another one of those thriller authors I absolutely love and will stand by my feelings for them. Her books are constantly great. I read 2 as well. One of Us is Dead. This book was also 10 out of 10. I read this one though. But yeah, Geneva Rose never misses, and honestly, I would 10 out of 10 recommend listening to Geneva Rose's books because the characters as well, like, her audiobooks are just like a fantasy audiobook where they have the voices of all different characters, and I just absolutely love that. It makes the story 10 times better, especially if they're in a separate POV, like having those characters. It's just so good. So Geneva Rose, Home is Where the Bodies Are. If you have not read this book yet, you should 10 out of 10 listen to it on any sort of audio source that you have, because I loved it. I thought it was so different and so fun, and the twist at the end had me like, oh my god, it's shit. Oh wait, no. Oh my god, it's her. Oh my god. Like, it was just so insane, and the story was absolutely 10 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching what audiobooks I absolutely love this year so far that I've listened to. I hope you guys found a new audiobook to listen to from this video. I will be updating, I think, every quarter what audiobooks I loved because, again, I'm in my audiobook era. I've never listened to audiobooks before, not really. Like, I listened to Twilight and like a few throughout the years, but other than that, I've never really been an audiobook girly, and for whatever reason, this year changed me and I am an audiobook girly. So I think I'm gonna do quarterly videos on what audiobooks I love. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.